I was relocating across Texas and, as I normally do, was driving through the night to skip traffic and because it's more serene that way. I was driving straight through central Texas going northwest, so seeing the hill country change to desert in the full moon was super cool. Anyways, I was driving with my, now ex-wife and we were running low on gas. Luckily, we were pulling into a tiny no-name town and we could see an old gas station come around the bend. This encounter happened at about 2 a.m. Now, this town only has one road, and this station was right at the edge of town at the end of it. When I say old, I mean very old, the type that you have no option of prepaying. You simply flip up the handle on the machine and you hear the pump inside start struggling to get the gas from the reservoir. It had the old-style tick readers too, not a thing electrical on it. I, being the young man I was, had never seen one before, so I walked into the store to buy the gas before I pumped. The store only had one light in the far back on, and I almost thought it was closed since it was barely brighter inside than it was out in the moonlight. Upon entering, I saw the place was deserted, no customers, no workers, nothing. However, there was an odd tune playing on someone's radio that I couldn't place. An old-sounding, upbeat piano piece was playing somewhere around the corner inside, and I heard shuffling once I walked closer to the source. This place made me feel scared. Not the whoa this is creepy scared, but the all hairs are on end, something is seriously wrong here but I can't figure it out scared. As I turned the corner, I saw a young man standing next to a large radio and dancing. His dancing, though, was extremely off-putting and seriously didn't match the tune at all. Though the radio was cranking out what sounding like ragtime, this guy was running his hands up and down his body and pretty much feeling himself with his eyes closed in what looked like bliss. He was going far slower than the music and definitely wasn't on tempo. For some reason, I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. I was in a trance as every part of me screamed to turn and leave. Finally, I said, "Excuse me, I just need some gas." The guy kept dancing. I said it a little louder, and he finally slowed down a bit and opened his eyes and focused on me. But it was like he was looking at a finely cooked steak. He was looking almost through me, and silently walked to the register, not saying anything. I said, just $20 please. He, again, didn't say anything and just stood behind the ancient register, so I just figured maybe he didn't speak the language or was embarrassed I caught him dancing, so I laid the money on the counter and went outside hoping he'd turn on the pump. I filled up, told my wife about the weird scene in there, and turned off the pump to kill the horrible grinding noise from the interior pump fighting against gravity to get the gas up. Weird thing is, when we were leaving, I looked back in the window and the guy was still standing there behind the counter. This may sound fine, but my money was still on the counter in front of him. It was like he was a robot who just turned off once I left. This is where it gets super weird. A couple months later, I was driving back to San Antonio to visit family, and we figured we'd stop at that old gas station to see it in the daytime since it had become somewhat of a running joke between us. We pulled into this tiny town, and the thing was gone. The lot it sat on at the end of the road wasn't even there. It was just grass. No rubble, no old pump, no lighting, nothing. It was like somebody picked it up and moved it. It looked like nothing had been there for years. Still get freaked out thinking about it.
A few years ago, I was driving home from Florida to Pennsylvania with 3 of my friends. It was late, probably sometime between 1 to 3 a.m., and we were somewhere in North Carolina. We needed gas soon, so we agreed to take the next exit off the highway that had a gas station. The second I took the exit, it was pitch black. There were no streetlights along the exit ramp or on the roads up ahead. The only lights in the area came from my headlights and the lights from 95 behind us. The sheer darkness was enough to creep me out, especially because my vision isn't the best to begin with but really sucks when it's dark, but we really needed gas so we pressed on. While driving to the gas station, the only building we saw was a massive, old-looking church. We drove by a sign informing us that we were in a town, but there were no businesses or houses other than the church. When we finally got to the gas station we saw an assortment of giant farm animal statues outside the building, standing tall and barely illuminated. They weren't fenced off, and there were no signs explaining why they were there, so if it's considered an attraction, it's a confusing one at best. However, the weirdest thing happened inside the gas station. With me on this trip was one other girl and two guys. We had all been friends for years, and our dynamic includes making fun of each other a lot, but never deliberately messing with each other's heads. At this point in our trip, we were all tired and eager to get home. The gas station itself was huge on the inside, filled to the brim with shelves, all of which were jam-packed with an assortment of junk food and junk items. In hindsight, this seems weird given how empty the town was, but at the time we were out distracted by just how much stuff this gas station held. The other girl and I went to the restroom while the two guys paid for gas. The restroom were hard to get to as there were boxes piled just outside the door, and the sign just had a piece of paper with "Women" scrawled across it in green highlighter. Upon leaving the restroom, we saw one of our friends entering the men's restroom, also marked by a piece of paper with "Men" written in highlighter. He gave us a weird look as he entered, but we shrugged it off and walked towards our other friend who we could see standing at a shelf a bit away. He was facing away from us, and as we approached I started to get a bad feeling in my stomach. As we got closer, he turned and gave us the most sinister look I've ever seen. Alarm bells are going off in my head at this point, and my female friend and I proceed to the car, unsure of what to make of the interaction we just had. The second we stepped outside and looked towards the gas pumps, we saw the same two friends we had just seen standing behind us. The one who was entering the bathroom was leaning casually against the car, while the one who gave us a sinister look was finishing up pumping gas. My female friend and I were dumbfounded and asked them how they were standing in front of us when they were both just behind us a few seconds ago, and they looked at us like we had multiple heads. After paying for gas, the two immediately went back out to the car, as the gas station gave off too weird of a vibe to wait in there for us. Sufficiently creeped out, we piled back in the car and noped the fuck out of there. I'm not sure why we saw two of my friends' doppelgangers in a gas station, or why the doppelgangers seemed to be in such a pissy mood, and I'm really not sure why the gas station had a collection of farm animal statues outside of it. I'm pretty content never going there again though. That place definitely should not exist.
I am a gas station worker. My shift starts at 8 p.m. At about 3 a.m. one night I had a woman come in. Insanely skinny, blonde thinning hair and wearing what looked like pajamas. Nothing really out of the ordinary about her, so I only really glanced up as I buzzed her in, called out a quick greeting and went back to cleaning. After about 2 to 3 minutes though, I look up and she is standing about 4 feet from the counter just staring at me. Completely blank, unwavering kind of stare. It startled me a little and I asked her if I could help her with anything. But she didn't reply and just continued to stare. She eventually began looking around the store, but she didn't take her eyes off me the entire time. Even walking backwards at some points so she wouldn't break eye contact. After she grabs some things, she comes back to the counter. Still staring, but also muttering something under her breath. It was really hard to hear what she was saying, but I managed to make out a brand of smokes after getting her to repeat it several times. I get them for her, scan all her things, and she pays. Eyes still locked on me and showing no emotion at all. It was getting pretty unnerving at this point, and I was looking forward to getting her out the door. As I'm handing over her change though, she suddenly smiles. Which would ease the tension if she didn't also start to laugh. It was a really raspy laugh, kind of a cross between that croaky noise The Grudge makes and a typical witch's laugh. Kind of a cackle, I guess. I tried not to react too much and told her to have a good night and took a few steps back from the counter. We were both kind of frozen. Her laughing and me having no idea what to do. She continued her cackling and staring for a few minutes and then left, walking backwards again so she could keep looking at me. I felt really freaked out at that point, but figured she was probably just drunk or high or just had some stuff going on. She was outside now and had wandered off, so I went back to cleaning and tried to shake the whole moment off. I was out in the store mopping about an hour later when I heard a thud against the window. The whole front of our store is just glass panels and the noise came from right beside me. I looked up and this damn woman is back. Her hand is pushed up against the window, and she is laughing again. I could just hear it as I was so close to the door. I must have really jumped at the sight of her because she seemed to get a kick out of it, laughing even more and smacking her hand on the window repeatedly. I thought bugger the mopping and went back behind the counter. I ended up staying in the back room where all of our security screens are and waiting for her to leave. It took around 45 minutes for her to clear off. The whole time just banging on the window, and I assume still laughing. I'm really glad our doors are locked overnight because I wouldn't have liked to have been on the same side of the counter as her. I'm not sure what her deal was, and I doubt she posed any real threat, but dang, it really freaked me out. I've seen her a few times since then. Just wandering past on the footpath outside, but she has never come in or hung around again.
I hope you found these stories as chilling and unsettling as I did. It's a stark reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more frightening than fiction. If you enjoyed these tales of suspense, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling content. This is your host, Nicholas Black. Until next time.